say about 200 films a year will be able to be funneled through the current, formal traditional distribution, and we know there's a lot more films being. Where do you see that going in terms of independent distribution?
Well, definitely a lot of independent distribution is for sure on the internet now. Digital streaming of films and digital downloading and all that kind of stuff is for sure. Right now, I don't know what the future is, but right now that's the most viable option for lower budget films for sure. Even if you make short films, I mean, you can put that on all kinds of sites, YouTube, Vimeo, and these kinds of things, and draw an audience. And my last film premiered at Sundance, and it was the lowest budget film I think they'd ever had, or something like that. And the main actor is a barber in Lafayette, Louisiana, and he had never acted before. So there's no stars in this movie. No one wanted to buy it or distribute it. It's kind of a strange comedy adventure, and we didn't have a distributor, and we didn't know what we were going to do, and Sundance just started a new thing where they're distributing films on the internet. So now the film exists on Netflix and Hulu, and you can download it on Amazon and iTunes, and I know a lot of companies are doing that anyway. A lot of distributors put their films online.
I'm showing my age here. When I started off shooting on 35 and 16 millimeter, and I used to cut on a bed. So, I mean, I've been around for a while, and the advent of digital technology allows everybody to make movies, which is a double-edged sword because, I've got a camera and I've got an editing system, therefore I'm a filmmaker. No, you're not. It's called storytelling, and a lot of people think that just because they have a camera they can edit. So therefore, over the past 6-7 years, the festival circuit and the industry has been flooded with movies, some that should not even be out there. And there is a difference between a filmmaker and somebody with a camera, and therefore that has really diluted how distribution goes. A lot of independent films. Edward Burns just made a movie. Anybody know Edward Burns? Early 90s, She's the One, Brothers McMullen, turned out to be, and he acts more now. He just made a feature film in New York for under $10,000. This is a guy that could easily get $1 million budget if he wanted one. But he didn't want to deal with SAG, and he didn't want to deal with losing his creative control. So his movie was released straight to iTunes, straight to on demand. And this is a big time filmmaker that changed all those filmmakers from the early 90s with Linklater, Tarantino, Kevin Smith, and Rodriguez, and Jerry Muse. They all changed the film world in the early 90s. And even him went to something like that to where it's all digital because he knows that he can make $10,000 back like that in that way. The digital downloads are huge right now, and a lot of the Netflix and stuff like that are taking smaller movies now, and on demand is becoming. There are literally distribution companies that all they deal with is on demand. So a lot of independent and short films are going to these on demand, like on Time Warner, where you can just go watch a movie for $1 or $2. So that's really starting to take off.
My last film, Chalk, came out in '07 theatrically, and in that time, I mean, it's been on Sundance Channel, Stars, all of these places, and I, as a filmmaker, my producers, we have not seen a dime. I mean, it was in 50 markets theatrically, so it was kind of at that tipping point where then filmmakers started to go, I'm going to keep some of the rights, we're going to sell DVDs on our website. And so this next film, kind of in the spirit of Ed Burns, which I've been inspired by what he's done, we made this film for actually less money. And Chalk cost more than $10,000 because we had to do a lot of music and editing, and we paid a lot more people. So we made this film, An Ordinary Family, for less money, and we just made a deal. There's a new digital distributor or aggregator, Cinetic Media, Film Buff, and they're kind of forerunners and they can make deals. They have so many relationships with iTunes, Amazon, Video on Demand, and all that. So we just said, let's do that. In our film, again, it didn't have stars, so theatrical, bigger companies weren't knocking down the door. And so we're doing that. And then there's this new thing we just found out about. It's a theatrical aggregator called Tug. Have you guys heard of this? It's really cool. They basically they just do all the work for you. They find out, let's say Batesville, someone here is like, we want to screen An Ordinary Family, and one of you takes the point and says that you've got a theater if they have a relationship with a theater, and that person has to get up to so many people to sign up. Once there's 50 or so, then the deal's done and everybody goes, and the person that spearheads it gets 5% of the door, the filmmakers get 35%, and which is typical even with a distributor, and then the theater gets 25, and then the Tug, the company that puts it together. So we're going to do that because we have contacts throughout the country. So that's kind of our theatrical release. But yeah, digital seems to be kind of the way to go. And I guess out of a little bit of resentment from the last one, I'm like, I really, and all of us feel this way, we want to make our investors money back. Sort of, well, obviously to honor that, because they, told some of my actors they just didn't get it. They're like, well, we just want to show our film, and I'm like, someone put this much money so we could do what we love. We owe it to them to get their money back, so we can keep doing this. You build that sort of relationship with people. So that's the big goal right now.
The rural South has a really bad image in a lot of people's minds because a lot of ridiculous stereotypes that have long since expired end up in movies, and those movies still get shown, and people still love to watch Gone with the Wind about the carefree days of slavery. And I really wonder if that's a challenge in your films especially, which are, really hard-hitting, if that's a challenge to try and break those stereotypes and make movies about what's really true and not what people think is true, because I think it holds back the South and it holds back rural America because people think that we're sort of a little backwards. And, we're not a little backwards. We're as capable and as intelligent, and you guys are as good at what you do as anybody on Broadway or in Los Angeles. And yet somehow we're here and they're up here in the minds of most people. And how do you deal with that when you're thinking about your projects and things?
You have to sort of tell both sides and tell the honest truth. Whenever I'm writing something, I don't think of the stereotypes. It goes back to what you said. I'm just thinking about the way I experienced it. And odds are, in my experience, some of those stereotypes will end up in my script because they're true. However, when I show the other side, I'm showing you like, wait a minute, it's not just this way, it's not just that way, it's many different ways. The thing is, as long as we keep making movies for no money, we can do that, right? We can show both sides. But the minute you start getting the pressure from Hollywood, that's when, because I get this all the time. I have a manager in LA, and he always says to me, when are you going to write something that's commercial? And I'm like, what does that even mean? And what he really means is, when are you going to write something that's happy-go-lucky? When are you going to write something that, does have those stereotypes in it so we can sit back and sort of we can laugh? Because when it gets too real, nobody wants to see it, and when you're making shorts, you can do that, right? I can tell both sides. When I'm making my feature for no money, I can tell both sides. But if I sort of want to move up that ladder, I hate to say it, it's like at some point, you put it like this: you don't have to do anything, but at some point it's probably expected of you to begin to write those films and to make those movies. And it's sort of a choice that you have to make. Am I going to do it or am I not? I've decided, and I'm saying this is my first feature, but I've literally decided that there's enough money out there that I can access that is not in the system that will allow me to continue to make the movies that I want to make. I may not be able to make the $30 million movie, but so what? I could make a movie for $1 million because I have I have millionaires who I can go and get some money from, and they're willing to allow me to make the movie that I want to make. Now, how long would that last if that movie doesn't make them a profit back? You know what I mean? I mean, that's the big question. How long would that last? Your passion, people, make your passion project. Well, after a while, they want their money.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what I have to do is I have to figure out a way to make a movie, and this is something that I'm still trying to figure out. How do you make a film that is not stereotypical, but that still I guess, can appeal to the masses, and that's the difficult part.